Alright guys, it's Jahlon with the Paradox Gaming Network, and it is the end of 2019, so I'm going to talk a little bit today about Gamigo, and did they deliver with Archeage Unchained. Going to talk about a couple of things that came out in the live stream, but before we do that, I'm going to take everything off the screen. I'm going to do a little bit of an unplugged right now. A lot of people have been asking me why I haven't been making Archeage content. The biggest reason is I was waiting to see how they could actually re-deliver the Archepass, which I think is the core fundamental part of Archeage Unchained. It's really how they aligned it so that there wouldn't be pay to win. And that has recently come back. I have been making a little bit of content on the sides. It's not ready to produce yet. But what I didn't want to do was week after week after week of just slamming on Gamigo and slamming on Archeage Unchained. Anytime I make content, it's promoting Archeage Unchained. And I can do that. I can talk negative about it. And you guys know that in the past with Try on Worlds, I called it out. But I don't want to go back to being negative and, just toxic about the game that you guys love. If you're watching this video, you love Archeage and you want to know what's going on with it. So I'm not going to bash on the game unless I have at least a little bit of counterweight. And that's actually what I want to talk about first. I want to talk about some counterweight. And that's the exile system. It's your faction swap with some rules. This is something everybody's been waiting for pretty much since launch. There were a lot of people who wanted to play a specific race, but be a part of a different faction. So the exile system is coming. It was supposed to be in the patch we got most recently, but they found some errors. Gamigo found some errors, so they delayed the deployment because they don't want to put out another bad system that causes even more problems. The ETA on it is this week's patch, assuming no more errors are found. For all of you pirates out there, this should also fix your issue where you can't go pirate or you can't go back from your pirate faction, go back to your mainland, because once the exile system, once the core technology of the exile system went in, it kind of messed with a lot of other secondary and tertiary systems. Now, I want to say this was well done. This is how it's supposed to work. They're supposed to do internal testing before they push a build. They're supposed to look for errors before sending it to the live servers. This is the point. I do have to remind them, they do have a public test server that needs to be utilized more. I think the players would all prefer to wait an extra week or 2 or 3 for content to ensure it's correct versus just keep pushing the patches direct from Gamigo with only internal testing and then keep having more and more errors. I want to talk about also the Mannequin system. This is a furniture item that allows you to display your costumes. There's a couple of other games that have done this. I know Final Fantasy XI is one of them. It was really for you to see like mannequins in your housing. This is going to be a marketplace item. It's going to come out this week. So little bit of swipage, but remember, they have to make money too. Now, I want to talk about the good things that Gamigo is doing, because if I don't, then it's just senseless bashing. They do have good communication. And what I mean by that is they are trying to communicate. The Discord communication is really, really good. If you go to their official Discord and you go into their news channel, there's 107,000 people who follow that Discord channel for the news updates. That's a lot. They do push a lot of things out. Now, I know a lot of people were making fun of Karen Dash for the live stream being a litany of forwarded to XL. And at first, I wanted to jump on that, and I did jump on that, and I got timed out during the stream. But as I spent the weekend thinking about it, that's really how it has to be. Gamigo is not the developer for Archeage. They can't make changes. All they can do is collect our feedback and roll it up. Now, what I would like to see a little constructive criticism for Gamigo and Karen Dash specifically, don't just say we forwarded it to XL. Put a date on it. On this date, we forwarded it. Did you just find it yesterday? Okay, you found it yesterday. Did you find it 3 weeks ago? Then say, yeah, 3 weeks ago we sent this in, we're in communication. And if you have any other updates, include those. We've talked about a couple of things back and forth since. That helps round out the picture. Now I want to talk about Archeage Unchained, and I want to admit Archeage Unchained is a mess. There were exploits early on at Archeage Unchained launch, and there's been exploits in Archeage forever. Why they don't spend more time on the PTS letting us find them before they push it to live is beyond me. We know that the Archepass was enabled, exploited, disabled, re-enabled, exploited, re-disabled. That happened. It looks like it works now, and I'm going to be doing a video on that. It's not the easiest thing to navigate through, but it's refinement. It's one of those things I said. They didn't do enough alpha testing on the Archepass. Archeage Unchained never should have launched until the Archepass system was functional. Content being disabled, the library, I am 100% okay with you disabling content if it means you're going to get server stability. However, the library was being run for people to get easy gold. They said they're going to disable the library to improve server performance. They disabled the library. Server performance didn't improve. We have had that no ETA fiasco where everything Karen Dash said was no ETA, no ETA, no ETA. I don't expect you to have an ETA, but I expect you to not sound like a broken record during your live streams. And then the disappearing larders thing, this is a year-long known bug. They still launched Archeage Unchained with larders disappearing. Now, larders disappearing in Archeage 1.0 or all the way up to 2.7 would have still been a big deal, but not as big of a deal as this now post-cargo world we live in Archeage. Because the amount of larders getting delivered to the ports is a lot lower than it would be if we didn't have disappearing larders, there are secondary and tertiary ramifications of that. And I don't think Gamigo's really grabbing the bull by the horns and addressing that. You want to be understanding with Gamigo. If you love Archeage, you want to be understanding. But Gamigo makes it so hard to believe them. So let's talk about a little bit of the bad. There's no real meat to answers. We get soon, we get no ETA, we get working on it, and then we get forwarded to XL, but I highlighted that one in green because that's what needs to happen. But there needs to be a lot more engagement. And by engagement, the time between the streams was almost a month. And I like Karen Dash. He doesn't have the answers, and any stream that doesn't have Krolin on it just becomes kind of memeable. And at this point, you all know my history with Krolin. Rather dicey, rather abrasive. I get it, if last month he was sick, he was sick. But where was he this month? Where was he to help alleviate all of these problems that we have going on in Archeage Unchained today? All right, guys, what I want to do right now is I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to look at the Gamigo Q3 financial report, because this kind of gives you the company's perspective on how they see things. And the people we interact with are usually game level people, producers, senior producers, community managers, but we don't really see how the business itself is seeing their products. And I want to do that. And with that, the first statement they had is Gamigo views Archeage Unchained as a success. Now, I did say they have 107,000 people following their Discord. That includes both Legacy and Unchained. And on October 5th, 2019, the Archeage Unchained game was successfully released to the public. Now, I don't know if they're saying that successfully released as in, yes, we got it out there and people could interact with it and people could spend money and people could play it. And by that definition, yes, absolutely, that was a successful release. But given how many problems Archeage Unchained had at launch, I might have taken the word successful out of that and just say it was released to the public. The launch overall is considered a massive success, with new players getting into the game. And then we talk about our queues, and we talk about the things we're doing to balance the population or reduce queues. Well, you're not really doing anything to balance the population to reduce queues. People have just stopped playing the game. And if anybody wants to dispute that, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. I don't think they had to implement their grace period. I don't think they had to do any balancing because they were too slow on releasing new servers, and people just left. With that, they also say Gamigo is hanging it on the Archeage Unchained wagon, hitching their wagon to the Archeage Unchained horse, I should say. The plan for Q4 to drive organic growth is the launch of Archeage Unchained, which is based on successful Archeage game, but introduces a new monetization approach. The product's monetization model has been revamped, including changing the core gameplay. I'm glad that they said in an official statement that it changes the core gameplay. It kind of means that they're committed, but I want to show you in just a second why they're not really doing the diligence. On this one, the monetization model, the cash shop differences. On Archeage Unchained, here are your prices for the winter cosmetics. Here are the same items with different prices on Archeage Legacy. Now, I understand Archeage Unchained has to have a different monetization model. It's a buy-to-play game, a one-time cost, and if you don't have ways to make money, then you're just not going to be bringing in any income. I don't think we needed to almost double the top costume, and I don't think we had to have such huge differences in the prices. And for all of my legacy players out there, I do want you to realize I acknowledge that the bottom or the 3 cheapest costumes, that's pretty, you know, I understand why they made them 1,500. It forces you to buy 2 Apex, thus driving Apex sales. But it's really showing that they care more about the pocketbook than they do about the customer, because they could have just made the bottom 3 $12.50, made them 1 Apex and called it a day. The other piece here is issues with the image transfers, and this is not research by me. This comes from Reddit, so kudos to the original author. You can buy a gingerbread buckler for 150 credits and then instantly turn around and sell it on the auction house for gold. This is core fundamental, something they said would not happen in Archeage Unchained. Now, I'm not concerned about the credit to gold ratio transfer. I'm concerned that this made it through their internal QA testing, their QA process, and it's even possible to do. Yes, it could just be a simple mistake and it made it through the testing process. Or it could be, you know, indicative of a future of everybody was right and Gamigo's just going to let people go pay to win on Unchained as well, because all they care about is the money. I really do hope that somebody at Gamigo sees this Reddit thread or checks out this part of the video and comes out with a statement of, no, absolutely, it was an oversight, shouldn't have happened, we're remedying it. Otherwise, yeah, there were a lot of people that were right. With that said, guys, with the reintroduction of the Archepass, I am making Archeage 101 content for Unchained. It's just slow going. It's a little bit harder making content for a game that you're not really totally in love with anymore. You got to love what you do and do what you love. So I love making content. I do have some gearing stuff I want to talk about, but it is the holidays. My kids are home. Making videos does get a little bit more difficult when they're home. But now that Archeage Unchained has all of its parts back working, like I said at the beginning of the video, now I can go back to making content because now I can support the game. As always, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Get me on Discord. I am Jahlon, #0001. And this will be my last Archeage video for 2019. I will see you guys again in 2020. What are you still doing here? Nobody ever stays this long. This is the end screen. Well, since you're here, there's a couple other videos I think you should check out. And all those names, those are my patrons over at Patreon. I couldn't do this without them. So, big thanks to them for all their support.